Hello guys, my name is Olga and I am from Russia, and now I am in Russia, and I wanted to make this video about renting apartments. Right now I am in Smolensk, but I will give you some more examples about different cities, because I rented apartments and my family, we rented apartments in different cities all over Russia. No, not all, but in several cities. So I will tell first the difference and maybe some resources which you might use for searching for a good apartment, and some maybe tricks which might happen to you, and maybe about mistakes which is better to avoid. And you can actually see the building behind me. It's kind of typical building, but it's a good one. It looks quite new. I guess it was built maybe 20 years ago, so in 20 knots. I'm not sure, but it might be. It looks really new here. So, okay, to begin with, if you are looking for apartments, there are two ways that you can do it on your own, using Airbnb. But Airbnb is good if you need an apartment for maybe 2, 3, 5 a week, 2, 3, 5 days, maybe a week. But if you want to stay longer, 2, 3 months and longer, it's better to use different services, which way the apartment will be really cheaper and maybe less comfortable, but cheaper. Okay then, so let's continue. Oh, actually, to continue, right behind me you can see 5-floor apartments. So that one is quite high, it's 10 maybe floors, and this one is a 5-floor apartment. We normally call them Khrushchevka, and they were built in the time of Khrushchev, which is now I'm going to make a mistake, 1950s, 60s, 70s. Let it be 70s, but I guess it was 60s. So, and they are still livable, so people still live there, and there are many of them which you can rent, and some of them might have some reconstruction inside, but some of them might be like Soviet time style with old, or like people say babushka style furniture, and maybe with the carpets on the floor and on the walls. It's kind of new, kind of interesting. And that's a typical part of Russian landscape garages. But actually I'm just in the yard with 5-floor apartment houses, and it's like a kind of common place where people can rent apartment. They are old. You can see that this very apartment building is built of bricks, but there can be also be like that one. Just a moment, I will turn around. It can be like panel built style. See, theoretically they might be the same. My friend has lived for all her life in such buildings. They are good, they are warm inside, because they're not very big. I mean, apartments inside are not really big, quite cozy. And the good thing is that these houses are very old, and that's why yards between, you see, they are usually full of trees. The minus is that playground for children is normally quite old. There is usually only a swing, maybe some carousel or merry-go-round, like that one, quite old. Let's get closer if it's old one or not. Oh, the slide. Oh, there is no slide here. Oh, look at this stuff. It's a bear from fairy tale, from Russian fairy tale, like Masha and the bear.
Very scary.
Yes. Oh, there is another one there, is over there. And there is that's one. Does it work?
Maybe.
It's not fashionable, it's quite old, but they are kept in good condition because people who live there, they have lived there for all their life, and they usually care about their yard, and they usually make it beautiful. Sometimes you can also see like beds of flowers. Now it's autumn, so we'll not see them anyway. The minus about these houses is that there are no lift or elevator. There are just 5, maybe 6. If you rent in a 6th floor apartment, also there will be no lift. Only the buildings which are higher than 4, 6, 7 floors. I don't think that there are 7 floors. And the one more minus, you see, nobody cares about not about this boy, I'm talking about this road. The same, the metal door with a security system, and sometimes they're scratched. The good thing that inside those buildings, again, they might be in good condition, because again, depends on the community, because sometimes community cares and they make reconstruction inside. But again, it depends. Sometimes there is a terrible smell or so on. So you first, before you rent, you always need to go inside and check. But there is a good thing that it's cozy, and everything is nearby. Dirt. So I'm in the center of Smolensk, so you can be surprised sometimes. So the second type of typical buildings is so-called 10-floor apartment building. So it's like 10-этажка, or it can be 9 floors. They are normally panel houses, really typical buildings. There is a lift. The tricky moment is if you rent an apartment on the top floor, there will be no lift. Like lift normally goes to the 9th floor if you live in a 10th floor building, but in some houses it's quite possible. So it depends. You really need to check, because sometimes like the top floor is occupied with the engine of the elevator, and you cannot go to your last floor and you get there. So what else is interesting? You see that there is a lady coming into their apartment. So there is a what do we call it? A common entrance for the building, and this entrance is normally so that's an example of a common entrance. So it normally is there are normally some advertisements. People just stick them. Before, people just used to stick them, and now it's like specially organized. It's covered with plastic, like beautifully made, but you need to pay for that. And all the doors have a special coding system, so that nobody could enter. And we have technically in my apartment, we also have special keys, and the key has special system, like beeping system. And then you can just enter this only if you have a key for this very house, for this very entrance. If I don't live in this house, I cannot enter it. It will not fit. It doesn't suit, so it's not working. We used to live in quite similar, the same building back in Rostov. We rented it, and it's good because it's normally like in the middle of like that, right? That's a back part of a shop over there, so there are usually shops in the nearest. There are usually shops nearby, and you can easily reach the shop and get to school, because schools are also near there, or kindergartens for your children, or just hospitals. But the minus is that sometimes it's a kind of new playground here. Yeah, as I can see, there is plastic slide, so it's a new one. Because in some elder houses, if we look at 5-floor apartment house, they normally have very old playgrounds, which is bad. And that is the third type of apartments or buildings which you might meet in Russia. These are quite modern ones. It's actually, we are lucky to rent our last apartment in Russia in such a building. We didn't really choose it, like when you rent an apartment, and not all landlords put photographs of the building, what it looks outside. So we just saw photographs from the inside the flat, what is there inside. And our choice was made just based on their characteristics of what? What was our main criteria? The school, yes. Because we needed a school for children, and we just looked at the map, and we saw that the school is right. Oh no, it's not really the school, just right there behind. It's right 5 minutes walking from this building. It's new. I didn't see the documents, but I suppose that it was built in 2000 knots. It's half empty. I checked at night time, and like 30% of windows are light, and all other are just dark. The playground, you see, there is a slide. It's kind of new. There are toys around because people who live in these apartments normally what do we call them? No, I wouldn't say rich, but they're not poor, so they can afford living there. Playground is empty because it's been raining for several days, and you see it's full of puddles. Okay, so there are the same buildings all around here. There is another one behind, yellow bricks, and the interesting moment about that one, that it even has a fence around the territory, and you cannot even get into the territory because you just need a special key. So there is a even more severe security system than in regular houses. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say about types of houses. Theoretically, there are even barracks. Barrack or 2-floor buildings without toilets inside, maybe with problems with water. There are such buildings in Russia. There's still people live there. Sometimes they are wooden, but mostly wooden barracks are already being destroyed. Though once while we were looking for an apartment in Rostov, we came across with the one advertisement, and we just went to see. It was 2-room apartment, but it was in a 2-floor, maybe 3-floor buildings, but it was really old, and the toilet and the bathroom were like together, but it took like less than 2 square meters. Really, you could just step inside and there is nothing. So I suppose it wasn't really, pre-planned building, because I saw the toilet outside. Such a wonderful building. And still people live in them. They are theoretically included in the system of, replacing that the government cares about people, and they try to provide them with a new accommodation. It started raining again. But you see, sometimes there are some extreme situations that people still live there. Okay, so that's all we wanted to say about accommodation. So how to find one? And one more quite typical thing about Russian houses, that you can often meet such construction like a shop on the first floor. So they often take the first floor for offices or maybe for shops. They just sometimes buy apartments on the first floor and rebuild them so that to organize their business. And it's quite common that there is a shop like in the nearest, the closest distance from your place of life. And you can go shopping just to buy products, whatever you need. You don't really need to go to supermarket somewhere far away or like malls or whatsoever. So it's really simple, and there are many shops which work 24 hours by 7 like all the time. Anytime you need to buy something you can, and they work every day. Like there is, especially if it's a product, shops for food, groceries, you can always buy them any day. They work without weekends. Yeah, which really was uncomfortable for us when we were in Poland, and we were really we weren't surprised because I knew about it, but it took some time for us to accommodate, to get accustomed to it, that we cannot buy food on Sunday. Because in Russia you can always buy it. Like you see, they work without breaks, without days off. Yes, you just enter there, it's open. Yeah. And that's it. No? Okay, so I guess I covered all types of houses which are the most popular, and so we can technically now get to the last point, how to rent the apartment. The first idea which comes to my mind is Airbnb. Especially when you travel, it's kind of comfortable. You can rent an apartment for 2-3 days. It's really good convenient service. But the issue is that nowadays it's 2022. Yes, it's September 2022, and Airbnb isn't working in Russia, and because of all this stupidity going on right now. I hope it will be over soon, but it can just hope. So anyway, Airbnb is and was good for short period time renting for several days, maybe for a week. If you want to rent for a longer period, like for 3 months, for 6 months, then you will have to, or you'd better rent with the services like different advertisements websites like Avito. It's like Russian Craigslist. Maybe there is like Yula or whatever. These websites provide services all around Russia. They give advertisements not only about accommodation, about all the stuff. And the plus is that they work in every city, and you can find anything in any city in Russia. But the minus of it, the big disadvantage is that those who give advertisements there, especially about accommodation, they must pay for advertisement, for placing an ad. And not all apartment owners do it, not all people are ready to pay for advertising, and that's why there are a lot of agencies on these websites. That's why I would recommend to use some kind of just regular search. You can go to Google search, Yandex search, whichever is comfortable for you, and just type renting an apartment in exact name of a city which you want to rent. Because in some cities, some websites are more popular, in some cities they are less popular, and there are local websites. Like, for example, 161.ru is typical for, I don't know which city maybe. No, it's like a code number of a city, of a region, and there are many websites. So just look for, and there might be good advertisement. There are also websites like Без посредников, so you can find advertisements there without agencies, which is also good because it's really often risky to use agencies because in some situations there might be frauds. I didn't come across with them, but we had an apartment in Rostov which we rented, and some people, when they came to us, they told us some stories how they got some got deceived, lied. They got into troubles because they just come to an agency, and the agency gives them list of phone numbers and addresses where they need to go, like to look in an apartment. And they require money for this service. And then when people pay, they start calling these apartments, but these apartments are already rented. So technically they just paid for nothing, and then they can't get this money back from agency. So it's really a fraud scheme, but they do it. And so it's better to just continue searching the internet and continue calling different apartments and just find like landlord. But you need to be ready to communicate with the landlord to check documents for an apartment, but just again to make sure that it's not fraud, that they really own this apartment. Normally those people who regularly rent, they are already ready, and they provide you with the documents for an apartment, that it's their own apartment, and they show your passport, or they are ready to provide with agreement. In Russia there is typically, you can download agreement from the internet, but normally people who give you an apartment, landlords, they already have them, they get them prepared, and you just need to read the conditions and sign. What else? Quite a normal scheme is that you need to pay. Quite a normal scheme is that you need to pay for the month, and then you need to pay for accommodation fee, just for water, gas, electricity. It's extra. Normally, if you see an advertisement, there is a price, and the price doesn't include extra fees, like internet payment, maybe. So it's just a basics fee, and you need to get extra. And usually we just ask, because in different regions this payment might be different. It might be really different. Like here in Smolensk, I pay something about 16, 15, 17,000 rubles for a flat, for an apartment, and plus 2,000 rubles for electricity, water, gas. It's not expensive, it's quite a good price, but people say that where was it? In Rostov we paid something the same, but in Bataysk, it's a city near Rostov, the fees are much higher. I don't know why the same apartment, like the same size apartment, might be much more expensive. Again, it depends on community fees, and they vary from place to place. And that's better to discuss, and that's better when you come to an apartment before you rent it. Just ask for, how to say, платежки, квитанции, for papers which they can show you how much people pay for electricity, like regular payment. And normally people provide you with this information. It's not a secret for them, because they understand that if you're gonna stay for a long time, it can influence your decision to relocate fast if you don't like the payments, of course. So that's probably it. If you have any more questions about like accommodations, about how to find it, just text. I will try to answer. I was going to school because I need to get my children's documents, and I came across with one more type of accommodation over here, which you can see. It's a type called dormitory, or it also can be called in Russian like mala semeyka, like for small family. I used to live in such really the same structure, the same coloring, the same looking, absolutely the same. Dormitory, students' dormitory in Bakonomsk, and but this one, I guess it's not dormitory, it's just really mala semeyka, so for families. That's how you should drive a car. Okay. It's a really noisy car. So I don't think that you will really come across with such type of accommodation for renting, because it's really they are very small, but if you meet something really, really cheap and with usually on advertisement you can see how many square meters there are in their apartment. And if there is something really, really small, just take into consideration not to look at this variance, because it can be something like that. And the funny moment is I actually took some photograph in Kazakhstan that you see there are a lot of satellite. People live in very poor conditions, but they have money for satellite. And it was funny in Kazakhstan because there was some like dilapidated house, like ruined, half ruined, almost just ruins with a satellite. No? And no, yeah. But still, if you look around, there are the same like beautifully made houses, so it can be all together in one park if you just step aside and you will see a new building right behind it. Oh, and that's a blue one. It's a sports center. Sports center with a there is a sports center, a gym, and it's a school and private houses. So all together in one piece of land. So if you just look for accommodation on a website, like with advertisement, you will never guess what kind of house or what kind of building it can be. So you just need to come, see, look at it. But sometimes it's enough to just look at photos of apartments. But again, if you are not familiar with the structure, with the planning inside the apartment, you will not guess. So just come and see. Okay, I guess it was informative enough, and good luck with renting apartments. I guess it's our last week in Russia, and then we're planning to relocate again. Not to the USA yet, but still it's our next step. And that's a school. So see you later. Subscribe if it was useful. If you have any questions, just write in comments. I will try and do my best to answer. See you later.